ordinary times. He was a disaster in extraordinary times. The country finally came apart under his watch. It turned out he just didn't have what it takes, a father whispered to a 9-year-old boy at Wheatland. The basic security of the world in the 20th and early 21st centuries has depended greatly upon the political unity of the temperate zone of North America. And that almost didn't happen. It was my knowledge of both Buchanan's many gifts and his abject personal failure as president, a knowledge first granted me by my father, that provided me with a deeper awareness of just how difficult making epochal decisions in the moment of crisis can be. It was this very awareness about Buchanan, how good he looked at the beginning of his administration and how bad he turned out, that always made me think later in life, thank God we had Lincoln. What Buchanan ultimately lacked, despite his resume, Lincoln had in abundance: character. But Buchanan's failure was secondary in my father's eyes that day at Wheatland. Primary was the fact that Buchanan was, nevertheless, part of the vital tapestry of American history. Therefore, he was well worth knowing about. Great presidents cannot be understood in isolation. One requires knowledge of the not great presidents who preceded and succeeded them. Indeed, we need always to see history as a whole. We cannot appreciate the good without knowing the bad, and vice versa. This is especially true of westward expansion. Wheatland made America's past come alive for me. It was at a hotel in Lancaster during that same trip that my parents bought me a volume of American travel articles written in easy Reader's Digest style, suited to my age. One story was about a family driving west and stopping for breakfast at a diner somewhere in Nebraska, perhaps, on the Great Plains, or the Great American Desert, as it was once known, anticipating the sight of the Rocky Mountains where they were headed. "You have to earn the Rockies," the father says to his wife and children, in my piercing, if inaccurate childhood recollection of the story, by driving across the flat Midwest and plains. Perhaps it was meet the challenge of the Rockies. In any case, earn the Rockies is a phrase that has stayed with me my whole life. It sums up America's continental geography, the continent that Lincoln united and realized, and the significance of the Rocky Mountains as a geographical fact that should only be encountered by first crossing the eastern seaboard, the Middle West, and the Great American Desert. For that was the way that they were encountered in all their sudden and terrifying magnificence by European settlers and pathfinders, those who could not have known what exactly lay over the horizon. Throughout my childhood, I yearned to see mountains higher than the Appalachians. As a family, we never left the eastern states. The Rockies were just too far, and my parents simply lacked the means, though my father talked about them often. The phrase, "earn the Rockies," helped spur me to travel, something also instilled in me by my father since I can remember. My mother and father took me on that trip through Pennsylvania in 1962. Alaska and Hawaii had only recently been admitted to the Union. The United States back then, for a while yet, still thought of itself as only a continental nation, stretching, according to both the song and the cliché, from sea to shining sea. To this day, Alaskans refer to the rest of the country as the Lower 48, meaning the contiguous 48 states that constitute the temperate zone of North America. Arizona was the last of the Lower 48, admitted to the Union only in 1912, a little closer in time to that trip through Pennsylvania than that trip through Pennsylvania was to the moment at which I write. America was a different country then, vaster and emptier. Valley Forge was not in the suburbs of Greater Philadelphia as it is now, nor Fredericksburg near the suburbs of Greater Washington, D.C. Food was more distinctive, with far fewer chain restaurants and grits widespread in eating facilities just south of the nation's capital. People drove and rode buses or hitchhiked across